Meeting of the South Kingstown Sustainability Committee. It is Monday, November 17th, starting at 6:01. Roll call. You go ahead.
Christine Mueller,
Janine Silversmith.
Gail Meisner.
Patrick Quinn.
Kim Falcone,
Joanne Riccitelli.
Mark Russo, Staff Liaison, and
Luke Murray, Deputy Town Manager.
Okay. Minutes.
I make a motion to approve the October minutes.
Second.
Oh, who's taking notes?
Me, Christine. Thank you, Christine. Any comments or corrections or anything on minutes? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Was any, I don't think you were here last meeting, so you're abstaining. Okay, so our agenda item. Hi.
The agenda item.
The agenda
Am
item.
I the only
Tell
agenda item?
You are. Tell us what's up, Luke.
you weren't gonna be telling us where it's gonna be, but you are.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the time. And I know that your group has been working diligently, I believe, since 2016. Is that right, Mark? Yeah.
yes.
So, and Mark brought to my attention several months back that Matt over at the Concom had issued the idea of merging sustainability with Concom. So, we had some discussions on it. As some of you may or may not know, Concoms go back to the 1960s, and that was legislated, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little different than sustainability. So I just issued the concern of I want legal to review it to make sure there's nothing conflicting here. Since have met with the solicitor. She's essentially, Amy Goins, one of our solicitors, has issued a determination. There's nothing that precludes it. So it could certainly be merged in mission if we so chose. So it sounded as though, and I wanted to confirm, because things were kind of progressing in the background on this. Certainly not opposed to it. I will tell you that we have a lot of boards and commissions. We appreciate all the work that they do, but it definitely takes a toll on staff time and resources, staffing all of these and the work and follow-up. So consolidating that is always welcomed. First, I wanted to confirm is that something that the group desires to do, and making sure that if you go to council, there's not this fight between two entities that are currently operating.
The merging of the two.
merging, yes.
Yes.
I think
I should let our chair speak, but
There was a subcommittee of 2 people from our committee and 2 people from their committee, who sat down and reviewed the missions of both and came up with a combined, merged mission statement. I don't know if I still have that we looked at last month.
I could forward it to you.
Yeah, there's, so that subcommittee came up with
The top part.
the draft there with some other stuff there for reference. So yeah, both committees have worked together, have discussed it, and that was the plan so far.
This is the first one I'm seeing of this. I think by state statute, Concom has to have 7.
Yeah, you don't see in the Google Doc, there's a comment on the 9 going, can we go to 9 or should we
Yeah.
stay at 7? So, yeah.
So obviously, that's something we can't get around. In addition, I don't think as far as name, while we can merge the mission, the name itself would have to stay Concom.
So I'm sorry, so when you say the statute said 7, absolutely 7,
Yeah.
no more, no
it's-
less?
Correct. Yeah. It's, actually, I took some
Well,
notes.
I missed the meeting, but this discussion I recall was that there was a legislative change at the state level that removed some planning process from Concom, but there was
Correct.
still some residual, like around the tree warden or something
Yeah,
very
there-
arcane. And then they had a couple of vacancies, and there was, is this duplicative? Is it what? And that's where this subset of that Joanne just described,
Sure.
the people meeting to say, how do we sort this out?
Yeah, all of which makes total sense, right? And you're right. There is in ordinance. There's also the on-site wastewater treatment committee. The Concom serves as that, and that was that's a local thing, right? Because state is an enabling legislation. It's not prescriptive. So it says what generally they can do. Somewhere along the line, there's an extensive wastewater. In 2000, they adopted on-site wastewater treatment. And we actually have a staff member dedicated to that does all the reviews and testing.
Right.
Concom serves as that committee. A lot of that work was done when it was set up, so I don't know how much is actually going on now overseeing that process as well.
According to Matt, none of it at all, that it's all on staff, so it's out of the committee.
Correct. Yeah, I think when it was getting propped up, a lot of the language goes to setting up sort of a framework for it and then coming up with a job description for the title at the time, which is now Crystal Furlong over at our wastewater plant. So she does a lot of that testing and the day-to-day. So I don't think the committee's really active there, to your point.
Yeah.
Could be, if needed. There are some things that may be applicable, but I'm just letting you know that.
Yep.
As far as the merger, so it essentially, the way this would go, just so you know as far as process, we'd essentially be dissolving the Sustainability Committee, which may sound a little, strange, but it's the best way to go about it, as opposed to calling it a merger. But then a resolution would essentially incorporate some of the mission that sustainability held. So it's just expanding the mission of the Concom to include what you've already done. I had drafted a really kind of succinct, and I haven't had a chance to review what you provided. This looks to be in line with what kind of is, I'm sorry, this one's yours.
Yours looks in line with yours.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm assuming it's pretty much in line with what you had for a mission, right? Mm-hmm. So I broadened it up a little bit, and I'll just kind of dictate this off. The Conservation Commission's, so it says, now therefore be resolved. I'll save you all the whereas, because we know
thanks.
why, right?
Skip to the good part.
Yeah, be it resolved, the South Kingston Town Council hereby dissolves the Sustainability Committee. The Conservation Commission's advisory duties shall be expanded to include creating and recommending sustainability frameworks, action plans, and initiatives to the Town Council, assisting staff when requested to implement and monitor local green initiatives, educating residents and businesses regarding sustainable practices, efforts to improve climate resilience and natural resource protection, and working to ensure sustainability is integrated across the municipality. Members of the Sustainability Committee shall be given priority for appointment to the Conservation Commission, provided a formal application is submitted by the former member prior to the dissolution of the Sustainability Committee. Okay. So the idea being you'd still have to provide an application, but hopefully the same night, if you're interested. I could arrange it so that way you're there, you're interviewed. So once it's expanded, you could immediately be appointed if any of you want to serve on that commission, which I believe is severely understaffed at the moment. So
Yeah.
You'd like to?
No, I just have a question. Because I'm taking
Thank you
notes.
for volunteering.
No, I'm taking notes. I want to know, could you send this to me? So,
Yes.
because this
I can
needs to go into the minutes. The other question is, do we need minutes? I guess we do. Okay,
Yes, yes.
so please, if you could send that to me,
Absolutely.
because I want to have it word by word.
Yeah.
No problem.
Maybe without,
You didn't
without the
dictate all
whereas.
that,
is
right?
it?
Yeah. Where's your shorthand, Christine? Could you read the second bullet point, the one about that started with staff something something?
Yeah.
Sorry.
All over,
Don't worry,
I think-
Mar.
All over, I
Staff
think
when
it's very good.
Assisting staff when requested to implement and monitor local green initiatives, educate residents and businesses regarding sustainable practices, improve climate, I'm still working on the language here, but efforts to improve climate resilience and natural resource protection, and working to ensure sustainability is integrated
Okay.
across the municipality.
Because
So it's broadened up a little bit
Yeah.
to kind of just give more of an umbrella.
yeah, I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather it be more broad than more,
Yes.
specific. That's the opposite of broad. I feel like asking committee members to assist with implementation is difficult. Like that gives me like a red flag, because a lot of times, to be quite honest, not you, Mark, but like other folks in the municipality, like town council members and such, have said, oh, can the sustainability committee do this like large educational? And it's like, we're not working for the town.
Right.
I've always seen this as a committee to advise the town. So I don't know. I just, that gave me like a little red flag when you said it. I was like, what does that actually mean, helping to implement it? Like the way that we have been doing it, which is like, you know, holding workshops and connecting people that need to be connected, but like, does it end there?
No, I think it's a really good point, and something that other committees and everything, you're thinking in the right terms, right? You're advisory to council, and you don't do the day-to-day. Some committees don't take that sort of mantra. They think, oh, I'm going to implement that. I'm going to go out to the public, and we're going to do this. But unfortunately, sometimes that's not in collaboration with staff, and sometimes it's directly opposed to what staff is doing.
Yeah.
So the intent of this is not, so I can certainly wordsmith it a bit to be a little bit more.
Like support staff in the
Sup-
implementation.
support staff. And I say assisting staff, but I get what you're saying. The idea isn't so you'd be taking it on. The reason I actually say assisting staff is because previous missions haven't said that. So it's like the committee shall implement and shall do and shall do all these things. Well,
Gotcha.
I'm assuming you all have day jobs or other things to do.
One that's
right?
killing me. But
Right.
yes, keep going.
Exactly. So, you know, it is really the staff's job to do that. Where it's helpful to have these committees is when we need assistance with certain things, especially like things like community outreach, right? You know, can you get out there and help us educate a little bit or get the word out about certain meetings or
Okay.
composting efforts? You know it. So I think that's the intent of this provision. I'll kind of think on a little bit more to see if I can be a little bit more thoughtful in the wording.
And I'm sorry, and I hope that what we came up with is helpful to you. And I'm also
yeah.
just like,
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to fully go
I'm
through
really,
this
I write a lot of grants and stuff, so I'm happy to wordsmith some more if you want anything. But just offering that.
Great.
Sorry.
No, it's great. Did you?
Yeah, so my understanding is tenuous, but the the Conservation Commission has more teeth than we do.
So they used to have a bit more teeth, but as alluded earlier, it was kind of stripped out. They used to have a little bit more advisory to the planning board on planning documents as it related more to the wetlands portion of it. But DEM has really assumed those roles, especially with the new wetlands regs. Rhode Island never had what Massachusetts had as far as teeth in wetlands regulations. Like they used to, in Massachusetts, just give you perspective, they control wetlands at a local level. So those setbacks to developments and things, those are actually, you have to go to the Concom at the local level, and every community is different. And it's very restrictive. Well, some communities are.
And so the Concom is regulatory.
In Massachusetts.
Yes.
Here, yes, correct.
Okay.
Here, it is not, because we're such a small state, it's really been housed, which makes sense. We are a small state, and for development, it really is tough to go to every single town. So we're centralized under DEM. So to your point, no, it's advisory only. It's set up and enabled that way, and the council has kept it that way as an advisory board. So you'd still be doing much the same thing as you do now. If you come up with something, you run it through staff, and you say, hey, we want to do X, whatever X is. You know, my recommendation is draft a memo, and I'm working on process. This is something I'm actively working on now to create better process. I started a couple years ago. I had to hit pause because of everything else going on.
Why? What's been going on?
But yeah, big school projects and ARPA funds. And
Whatever, the world's on fire. Keep going.
World's on fire. But I am working on a better process so boards and commissions can communicate with council.
That's great.
So that's sort of, and what's the widget that gets us there? Because I know we had the workshops, and that was one way I tried to get that done. The problem is the council gets bound up with all the other things, and all of a sudden you skip one meeting, then you skip another meeting, and now you're backed up on workshops, and then it just wasn't working. Okay. So I'm trying to find a better way where you can get to the council intermittently with reports or requests, get actual feedback, direct feedback, like, we want to go put solar panels on every single roof in town, whatever, right? I know you.
We all want that. It's not just me. I'm
Onto
just
the
the
high school,
emotive.
right?
I'm the emotive one.
Just onto the high school.
Oh, that'd be good too.
Right. So, you know, we want the council support for XYZ. Council can then have a process where they can give you direct feedback. Yes, we think this is great. No, we think, or could you work on this instead? So the other thing is, these committees are set up in such a way, they're broad in mission, and it's intentionally so. But just because the committee's sort of thoughts are to go down one lane, that doesn't necessarily mean it matches what the council wants. And since you're advisory to council, you may go down a lane for a year, and then you make a recommendation to the council, and they say, thank you very much, have a nice day, right? I'd rather see it be effective. So it's really what the council, it's based on the council's goals. So the idea would be that every time a new council is elected, they would set goals for each individual board or commission. So what do you want them to work on, if anything, right? So take the Concom, you know, it may fall in the sustainability bucket. It may be that they have a piece of open space they want to acquire or look at, or they're concerned about a certain, you know, tracts of land or wetland regulations, whatever it is. So that would be kind of the new model, framework-wise, what I'm working on. But that's for those who decide to stay and engage in Concom. For those who don't wish to stay and move on, I certainly appreciate and understand that, having served on boards and commissions and a school committee myself. So I know that it's a lot of time and energy and effort. So.
School committee.
Oh, that one was a tough one.
So, just a couple of things. One is just feedback on this idea about having some kind of iterative process between the council and the boards and commissions.
Mhm.
You could just say, you know, and this is going way back in the vault, you know, I showed up at an Exeter Town Council meeting in like 1989, and it was gravel bank month. They approved all the gravel banks. So if you slot every one of these, statutory authority committees, like the Concom will be, and that's going to happen in April, and then the May meeting is one of the other ones, and it's all scheduled out. You could have the council have a pre-scheduled meeting. That way, the Concon knows April's a month they're going to be looking for some feedback from us, and then give us some. That way, it's all scheduled and it's predictable.
Yeah,
So-
I get generally what you're saying, and the realities of how that all works isn't as clean as I would like it to.
Well, it's better than
That's
just-
a very specific example, by the way.
Yeah, it's better, but it's better than just bumping the meeting due to overtaken by events all the time. So
You're saying the workshops?
Yeah, I mean just
Yeah, and I don't think the workshops, I gotta be honest, I don't think the workshops are coming back because I don't know how effective they are. We
Right.
found that they were rushed.
Wait, workshops as in
Wait,
like
no,
our
all-
water,
Your presentation,
like the annual presentation
Oh,
to the
the
town
committees.
council.
Yeah.
I totally,
We
yeah,
implemented-
workshops in my mind mean like the
Sorry.
water forum we
No,
did.
okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we did that during the
As opposed-
workshop session of the council meeting, the presentation, the board and
Yeah,
commission
right,
presentations.
right.
They were very quick, right? You're
Yep.
trying to get all this information, dump it on council, and then you're then asking them, okay, what do you think? Let's get some feedback here. And in fairness to them,
Yeah.
they need to absorb it, and a lot of it is nodding like, yeah, sounds good to me. But
Right.
boards and commissions either took that as it's full go ahead, which that may not have been the direction, or it was like they didn't get the feedback they were looking for.
Okay.
So I think I'm trying to find a better way that with the ongoing communication, clear goals and objectives, that the boards and commissions can go more effectively, and then also we can provide better support with staff.
Cool.
to meet those goals.
I like
The second point I want to make is just like sort of on the optics of it. We're dissolving the sustainability committee. What does that mean in terms of like the town's commitment? And that could be easily, interpreted, misinterpreted. A number of cities and towns, Newport, for instance, have, essentially reorganized to have sustainability and that whole issue baked into the cake. It's not just a sidecar over here. It's right what Public Works is doing, what this one is doing, what that one. We don't have the same issues yet. We don't have the same types of, sea level rise, but, we'll get the issues that they're experiencing because they're on an island, we will eventually show up at our door. So my point would be somebody in town leadership, I don't know whether it's elected or the manager or yourself, whatever, needs to be talking about this from the perspective of, as we just found out with our water supply, we need to figure out ways to conserve and live within our means and we're not backing away from sustainability, we're figuring out another way to go forward on it. I think that's really important for me anyway. I'm not
Yeah,
speaking for the group,
no.
I'm speaking for myself. Because, the water, the water ban, I don't know exactly what, there was some email traffic and I can't remember exactly where it landed, but there's the alternate outdoor watering stuff that's being discussed. I guess it's come from Rich. But that to me is a perfect example. So I don't want it to be like, oh, we're looking at how we conserve water, but then we're doing away with the sustainability committee.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
optics of it
Yeah.
could be really ugly.
No, and that's a fair point. I think we're gonna have to definitely control the narrative. So typically, I'll write a memo that goes along with this, and that's exactly what I'll explain. Is that although the resolution is seeking to dissolve sustainability committee as it exists, it doesn't mean that the mission is changing, and we feel it'll actually be carried out more effectively by a singular group with staff support that looks at the totality of issues. So it's a fair point. Yes, water is just one of them that's come up recently, especially with conservation, and as soon as you turn the spigot off, everyone gets ramped up for sure. And it's one of a number of things that we deal with. Unlike Newport, we don't have, I think they actually have a full-time resilience coordinator, if I recall.
We want one of those.
Yeah.
We have Charlotte.
Can you tell I'm I'm always the class clown. I'm like,
right?
yeah, yep. All right, I'll work
Apply
on that.
in. I would love to have a resilience/sustainability because there's a lot of resilience money out there
Yeah.
for grants and other things. Unfortunately, like it's in the mix of other staffing we
Yeah.
need, right? The priorities are always a tough one. Of course, I always say the town council sets the priorities. So if the group that exists on the Concom comes out with a recommendation someday to add a resilience coordinator and does research on that, that's a council call. You know, we don't.
Right.
I always say I'm glad to spend the money they give us. So, no problem.
Yeah.
So
And,
that
and there
is-
has been, to Patrick's point, there has been a lot of conversation between the Concom and the SESCOM as of late, because it's like Matt would come here and be like, wow, I see what you guys are doing, and we're doing that. So there's like, that could help the optics, is my point.
It does.
That
And
there's been synergy and, collaboration.
common mission, yeah, for sure. And instead it actually cuts down on the number of sort of outside interactions. too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One more question. You elaborated that the Concom does not implement things like wetlands. When Matt, what was his name?
Brady Wood.
Brady was here. He said that the Concom has a lot of responsibility with trees and tree management in the town. Would you please clarify for us whether that has
good point.
changed or not? Because if this is the case, we need people who have some professional background in trees.
So we actually have, we have a tree warden, right? I was just talking to Todd Correa today, like anything on town property, if somebody wants to cut it, they have to request permission. We
Yes.
have to issue, and we evaluate the trees and whatnot. Private property is a whole separate deal, like that is,
Yeah.
people have private property rights. And sometimes it's unfortunate when they have a 40-inch caliper rope on their property decide to chop, like today.
Oh, God.
So, but I'm not sure, I would have to get back to you, quite honestly, on the extent of where Concom is involved with individual, like, tree decisions or reforestation in general. I think in terms of the committee itself, as far as being advisory, certainly a lot of the efforts for reforestation, especially in terms of development and everything, is under the purview. I don't know with regard, like, what they're doing today, like, what Matt's referring to, as far as individual decisions.
Yeah, he
'cause
was
I
pretty
don't know
specific that was some sort of,
It's in ordinance, I know
Yeah.
that, I just don't know what side, what
Yeah.
extent they're active
Just-
at, so I'd have to get back to
The paper that Joanne gave you, can
Yep.
you just give it to me for 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I had put the
No,
old.
it's mine.
No, it is yours. I'm just gonna borrow
can
it back
have it.
for 20 seconds.
Did I already lose it, or what?
Yeah, maybe.
There you go.
Because the current Conservation Commission purpose is on here. South
Yeah.
Kingstown Conservation Commission also serves as the town tree board. And it also says, as well as the on-site wastewater treatment system commission.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I know they have the mission to, what I'm referring to is, I just don't know to what
How does it-
extent and what they're
how does that
doing with
actually
that.
look?
Because as you just discussed with OWTS, they're not doing much with that avenue,
Right.
even though there's a very lengthy ordinance on it. I mean, it's very prescriptive. But if staff's taking over the day-to-day on that, that's a pretty bread and butter thing. We have a system
Yep,
set up.
thank you.
People get inspections and
Yeah,
get
that's
their
great.
fines and all that good stuff. So it's launched. On this, I will go back and just kind of see what's being done.
okay.
So what happens next?
Yeah.
Both time frame
Yeah,
and
so-
process-wise, if we did want to be on the Concom, you know, when do they meet? Do they meet monthly? What day and time? Is the application the same as the ones we did when we applied to be on this committee? That kind of stuff.
So the application's the same for all boards and commissions. You can find it on the boards and commission site. It's a form fillable. It's pretty straightforward, right? So it's the same one. I think it's a couple pages. Should be fairly easy if you remember. And you probably recycle your old application if you saved it down. As far as the meeting dates, I have to go back. Off the top of my head, I don't know. It's listed on their website, on the board and commission website.
It was Thursdays.
I feel like you're right. It was staffed by Jay Parker at one point. But I think
Okay.
did Jamie or Brian take that over? I don't know.
That was Jay Parker, but
Yeah,
he's
but-
gone, it's gone to Tracy.
Oh, Tracy, that's right. She's taking that over. So our new GIS
the new Carol?
coordinator, principal planner. Yeah, so she's actually entitled a principal planner, which was the same title as Brian Wagner. But she's heavier on the GIS side of things.
Okay.
So she'll be managing that moving forward. The date and time are on the website, so you can check there if you're interested. What other question did you have?
Applications and interviews.
Time
So,
frame?
yeah, timeframe. So, we can do this really at any time. I can work with the solicitor. We already have a draft resolution. I didn't want to get it on too quick because I wanted to give a courtesy to come to the committee and say, here's what's going on. And also, I just wanted to hear with my own ears, like, there was no issue with this.
Yep.
Sounds like we're all to
Thank
go. But I also want to give the same courtesy of getting the word out to the Concom and the few remaining members there. So, and they canceled this month.
Yes, they
Oh.
did.
So
Last week.
I've got two options. My plan was to bring it in on the December meeting, which was December 8th, council, and do it then. If we don't do it then, that's the only meeting in December. So that means we're waiting till January. I don't know how critical you see this or what your view is on it. I can go either way. I can certainly correspond through the staff liaison to Concom.
Just in terms of the logistics, I know there was a couple of vacancies.
Right, yeah.
But would we be like applying, competitively to displace people? That would feel a little bit
Right,
awkward.
yeah.
No, my understanding is they're down to 3 members and they
Yeah.
need 7. So there's 4 vacancies, so
Oh,
I don't
it's 4
know.
And I was just
Right.
staying through the end of this year on
So,
sustainability.
and I guess in theory, I'm
We're
seeing
competing with
5
each other.
additional.
There's Elizabeth
Six,
also.
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, were you all trying to vie for a position on that, or?
I think some people might have to make a decision after tonight.
We also have other committees.
Yeah, that's another question, because Mark previously said that the town council has had some thoughts of combining all the committees into one. Is
So
that,
it's
was that
something
just an
I-
idea that is not.
It's an idea. It's not
Okay.
fully baked. It's solely my idea that I floated, and the going to what I've explained earlier on some of the actual operation of some of these boards and commissions, I found a common theme. Some get very frustrated because they work on all of these efforts that don't seem to move, not getting ongoing communication with the council, etc. And I think a lot of that goes down to a lot of what you should be doing is working with the council and staff in the common motion, right? It's tough to do when you have so many boards and commissions. I'll be honest, staff is taxed out, like doing the day-to-day, working your regular day here, and then coming in at night, doing a liaison and keeping up with everything is difficult. Like, it's another thing, he's the facilities director. He's running around town all
just
day
that?
maintaining facilities, right?
Getting in the
that's
paper
his
left and
full-time
right.
job. So the thought I had,
300-year-old town.
yeah, it just never ends, right? Talk about job security.
Way to spin it.
Yeah.
How many commissions
Committee,
and
yeah.
committees are there?
So we've got
47. No.
No, it's not. It's some you can't take obviously planning, zoning, all those
Of course.
are kind of legislative and
Yeah.
kind of dictated to us. So bicycle pedestrian advisory, economic development committee, we had the Route 1 advisory committee, which eventually will dissolve because the report will be done and that one will come off
Okay.
the list. This group, which would be combined. What else we have?
Historic district.
So historic district is what I consider legislated because it's on the ordinance and it has to exist in
Okay.
order to have a historic district. So
Affordable housing?
affordable housing, yep. Actually, those are the big ones. Affordable, EDC, BPAC, sustainability, I think are the big advisories.
Bikes.
Yeah, I manage that one, actually. I was just there the other night. So,
I got you.
but, you know, so the thought was, all right, all these issues, although they seem seemingly different, are generally interrelated. I have people on BPAC who care about sustainability issues. I have people on sustainability who might bike.
Mm-hmm.
I have EDC members who who might be interested in sustainability issues and vice versa. So you find a lot of these commonalities.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is they're not communicating on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, it's tough to get everyone together. You got OMA rules and everything else. So it's difficult. And you might be working on, similar issues. The housing is a big example of this, right? Sustainability, is a part of housing. Like when you build homes and whatnot, that should be a point where you're looking at sustainability. So the thought was that instead of having all these groups, maybe you would create one larger advisory committee that comes together and with the council goals, right? So the council would outset their goals and they would kind of dictate with the group what you're going to work on for the year. So instead of saying, let's throw all these ideas, because every committee, like BPAC's agenda for this week had probably 10 different initiatives on it. And then they all walk away. I mean, they're all working a full-time job, so how can you get all that done? So the idea is to concentrate on a few primary missions per year and drive to the goalpost based on what the council wants, because ultimately you got to go back to council to get approved anyway. So if composting effort, which I know is one that you worked on, is the flavor of the year for the council and the group, like that, and maybe a couple other initiatives, that's what and maybe you pick one in each category. It's like, all right, we're going to pick a bike pedestrian type transportation thing, and we're going to take one that's more sustainability oriented. But you kind of have the power of crosstalk and skill sets. So maybe it's a 15-member committee, but it's something that can, have kind of a mission focus.
15-member committee.
It's trust me, it's an idea.
Okay.
And it may not be that. I think the idea is warranted in trying to engage the community and get them involved, but it can lead to frustration if all you're doing is hitting a wall constantly,
Yeah, I think the idea is great in theory. I'm not sure whether in practice then, because housing affordability is a really important topic. I mean, for socially in our town. But of course, environmental sustainability is the foundation of our existence, and it is often neglected. And we are actually not any one of us is sufficiently aware of the crisis we are in. We are in an existential crisis, and this is not alarmist. It's pure science. It's pure science. But we cannot be alarmist enough, according to science, not according to politics. I teach climate change, so it's not, and I base everything on science and not on ideology or politics at all. So I'm afraid that if there is just one group, that this problem of environmental sustainability is not as, it doesn't get the attention as it really needs. And I know, like in the sustainability committee, there has been a lot of work and a lot of, we have tried our best, but what we have achieved has been kind of limited, and we are all aware of that. I mean, there is so much more that should be done in the town. When we look at the future, like what will the future hold for the town of South Kingstown? How is our situation in 10 years? How is it in 20 years? With water, with agriculture, with food supply, basic food supply to the town, with energy and with transportation. These are all like big problems that we are basically ignoring because they are too big to be handled.
Right.
So we have tried to work on the low-hanging fruits, like something that we can really achieve. Yeah. And that is good. That is not a criticism, it's just a fact. We have tried our best, but we really need to have a voice in the town, a strong voice.
Yeah.
That always, just every decision that is being made needs to be like informed by the situation of, our foundation of existence.
I think the important thing to realize is, and I've expressed it to BPAC, and this is my own opinion, sometimes a singular voice is just as loud as a group, right? Janine's come to our building committee meetings and expressed, I know it's a shared vision, but she could have easily just standing up as a citizen, expressing her viewpoint. I think it would have landed just as hard. Sometimes we rely on a governmental system to solve every problem, right? And sometimes the intent is good, right? I'm going to sign up for this board of commission. We're gonna drive everything home, realizing that our core mission as a government is a lot of the basics, right? Make sure people get picked up if they have a healthcare emergency. Make sure the police show up when they need to. Make sure people can get a birth certificate and a death certificate, right? All the basics of government. You start layering a lot of the other stuff. It's not our core mission, because it can't be, because we can only operate like within our budgets, within our the staff we have. And so I guess all that to the point of I've encouraged people maybe sometimes the government isn't the system for this, because now you fall under OMA, right? Whereas if you had a 501c3 group that was a sustainability group, you go meet at McDonald's on Monday. I don't care, and you can still go to the town council. You can still advocate for things. You can actually raise money.
We can go to the town council more.
You could. You could go to every town council, and you have untethered access, right? Because us as staff kind of have an obligation, like you're representing the town. So Mark has to say, hey, be careful what you say or what you're putting out there, because it's this is under the town, right? We have to kind of approve it. So that's not to say sometimes that's taken poorly, because I say it and people take it as, well, you just don't want us around. That's not the case. It's just because I've been involved in these groups, and I found that sometimes being under government, that's the reason I resigned off the school committee, because eventually I'm like, this is bonkers. Like I can't say half the things I could have said as a parent.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're more effectual that way as a parent standing up to a microphone. So I'm not encouraging you to go blast the council by any means, but I just don't want you to tether yourself to only this to get your accomplished goals done, right? There's a million things that you can do as an individual, and I hear you on the environmental front, but you can't do it all within the auspice of these groups. Going back to the larger group, to your point there, I don't disagree with you. However, I would say that if the group was run correctly, you could create subcommittees or task force within that group. So you could have a 4 or 5 person subcommittee that's focused on sustainability. One that, maybe it's 3 or 4 people only want to work on bicycle pedestrian. So you could have that larger group, but that larger group, let's say, meets quarterly. So you don't have to meet every month. You can meet biannually. The larger group, they would all still fall under OMA. So you'd still meet like you would like this, but maybe the whole group is staffed by only a couple members. Now, the difficulty is, how do I reduce my staff? Because now if I'm breaking off, I just created, all these groups, and they still fall into OMA unless I'm able to get them below quorums. So now if you have a larger group and you fall into quorums, you might be able to get out of the OMA stuff. So it's a working group that then reports to the main committee. So that's not to bog you down in detail.
Good idea, because just in the last few months, I've had separate meetings with somebody at EDC, people, we met with a couple people from the Historic District Commission to try to just see, and we've been meeting with the Concom to just talk about, what do you do and what could we do together? And we had this great session, Gail and I, with a couple of people from the Historic District Commission about, how can we work together? And we talked about, one thing that really kind of would appeal to both of our groups is to talk about, like what's going on with Main Street, a lot of things changing, whatever. And then the next thing we knew, the EDC had invited people from Grow Smart, which is what we had ended up deciding we should do, to come talk about their Main Street initiative, which just proves that, we came up with the thing that should have come up with, we didn't even have to do it.
Yeah.
So there has been, some informal kind of talking across, just because I just knew these people. So it's like, okay, well, let's talk about that and see what happens. So I kind of think that your idea of a big committee and then having independent working groups that then report to the committee that don't have to be staffed, that could actually get a lot more done than
Yeah.
all of the committees that exist now, plus get the benefit of people talking to each other about things.
Yeah, because I think the thing that I don't want to belabor this whole super committee thing too much, but the thing that like alarmed me about that is like if I were the only person with the environmental or sustainability bent on a big committee, then I'm just one voice. But the beauty of the way committees are supposed to work, right, is that it's like multiple perspectives, multiple lived experiences, multiple skill sets, whatever it is. And so you could still have that in the subcommittees is like a number of people coming together.
No, that's good feedback for me because I am far from baked on this. I floated it to Mark and I said, I'm working on this idea. I floated it to the manager. He's like, sounds good, but like, how does this all work?
Yeah.
So that's where the rubber meets the road, creating a framework that could potentially work. This is good feedback for me though, because as I'm thinking about it, I'm like these working groups, we could maybe establish a framework that says you will have these working groups, right, in certain categories, and you can create others if you'd like, but they have to stay, let's say, below a quorum.
Right.
And they can, establish the framework of how they operate and report back to the main groups. And then when the main group wants to take something up and advise council, the thing is they can advise in a number of topics. So the council's getting one report out. So it's we're working on these items, boom, 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 and we're requesting your input on this, boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
So two things. I think you just touched on it. One thing that I'm hearing and I'm a little bit reluctant to let go of is one of the beauties of this group feels to me is that some of the initiatives come from the ground up. Like somebody here is aware of some issues, some initiatives, sometimes it's grant money, and it bubbles up. So an individual here brings it up, the group supports it, we then take it to the town in the form of a...
Yeah, now there's compost bins at the transfer station.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
So I'd hate to lose that. I'd hate to lose, because I feel like this is a way for members of the community to sort of come out and share ideas, without maybe just singly going to the town council. So I'm putting this back. I'm offering you an idea for you to think about, for us all to think about, a way to have it be more have more cross pollination, and I would hate to just have the town council go to the super committee. This is what the town council wants. This is what the super committee can work with, and then take it back to the committee.
It should work both ways.
It should work both
I
ways.
think the super committee, because of all the cross-pollination, would come up with things that maybe individual committees wouldn't. Like when we sat down and talked with those guys from the Historic District and talked about Main Street and wouldn't that be great, and that was something we came up with because we came at it from different perspectives, and that if that were to happen at this big committee level as well, then that could bring more things to the fore. I also think it would be really great if in your process of figuring out how the council is going to, focus on what their goals for the year are, kind of thing, to have there be some listening sessions or something where people could just come and say, this is what I think is most important for the town to look into. And because, 5 individuals are not going to have anywhere near the breadth of experiences, and we've got so many talented and, good people in town that have a lot to offer that you don't have to be on a committee to come to like one of these sessions to say, help the town council, decide what to prioritize. Now that might not be, it would go all over the place and it would be kind of, it'd be herding cats, but if you get the right cat, it's all worth it, right? So
Get the right shepherd. It's all worth it.
well, that too. But there's got to be ways for ideas to come in to town government that, because town government is so busy doing all of the things that has to get done, you have to institutionalize ways for ideas that are outside of that box to come in. And that's what I've liked so much about this committee is that, our what we do and what we think about is fairly broad, and it isn't pre-described. It isn't prescribed. It isn't limited. It's outside. It can be outside the box. And you need more of that, I think, to to have all the, the best ideas kind of bubble up to the surface. So if that if that super committee could work that way and bubble ideas up as well as coming down, and also if there could be some sort of structure for how does the town council create priorities and where can some of those ideas, come in before that all happens so that it could be considered. I think those would be two improvements in going
So,
forward.
yeah, I take that feedback, and I think it's really good feedback of ground up. And I also, I think as you're talking and as I'm thinking, I'm, thinking that because we would have a consolidated group, it's probably more palatable for the council to have a special work session just on this, just to collaborate. And maybe it's a goal setting between the mutual parties. So it's not just one versus the other. The council is just pushing it down. It's here's what we see as important. Here's what we see as important. All right, what do we want to put on the list? And maybe in that is some public, comment session for others, outside parties to weigh in. But that's kind of sets the tone for the year. And then maybe at the end of the year, there's a report out. In the interim, there's a process whereby you can have written communications or smaller bites at different things. So it's just a little bit more manageable. And I think for us, in order to be effective, that's what's warranted.
It's strategic.
Less-
That's
less-
you just described strategic planning,
Yeah.
like the government version of nonprofit strategic
Correct.
planning, but which is not worth anything if then just the ideas are out there and nobody does anything with them, right? It's like about then revisiting and making good on them.
And you said something very pertinent, institutionalizing and like documenting process. So, that's one of the things with BPAC I'm trying to do is keep talking about, like, when you have a capital improvement plan, you guys should be considering all these roadways, like, should there be a sidewalk? Should there be other pedestrian enhancements? And the truth is, we have a pavement management program, right? That's what we do. We budget and we repave the road because there's potholes. But we really don't have a public process or, so I've been encouraging them to say, well, then you've got to come up with a process. Like, what is the process whereby staff is kind of forced into taking community comment and running the process through? I'm not opposed to it, but in the day-to-day, we're not going to, it's highly unlikely government's just going to come up with that on their own. Yeah. So it does have to be sort of a process where you think through it and say, okay, what is the process whereby I'm going to get public input and I'm going to set goals and then drive towards those goals. You have to create the frameworks for that. So that would be the goal of this whole thing, kind of create the better widget, so to speak. But it wouldn't preclude you from having the ground up.
Yes.
And, just
ahead.
one more, real quick. So when you were concerned about, in this hypothetical scenario with the super committee and then subcommittees, or working groups or whatever the sort of bigger groups of specialized people, what's the quorum concern? I mean, so in other words, if you represent you go to the super committee and then you come back to us, pointing to you,
Don't.
there's we're not ruled by any,
Open
committee,
meeting laws or anything.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, that's the point. But
that's
that's what he's saying is
So
that
the-
if it's 15 people on this super committee, then you can't have 8 people from that committee meeting at the same time.
that's a
So it would just have to
quorum
be less
issue.
than that.
So you had
That's it.
work groups of 7 like we've always been.
So having a bigger group is actually to the benefit in that scenario. And I'm presenting that because selfishly from a staff level, we don't have to staff it, right? And you can kind of meet wherever you want as long as you kind of set, and maybe there's a framework for that where you have to disclose to the larger group, like when you're meeting, kind of have a schedule. So there is some
Take
framework of
notes,
accountability. Take notes, report backs. But it's not staff driven. It's kind of like, to your point, like it's probably encourages more collaboration because you can go have a coffee at the coffee shop and have a meeting and discuss those issues and
Yep.
crosstalk, take your notes and bring them back to the committee. So I find that to be much more effective than, the video recording and the whole formality of process, It's great and all, but it doesn't spark
But that
innovation.
raises another question.
I think
Because-
Patrick had.
oh, I'm
He's- I
sorry.
already cut him off once.
He's a very patient man. I'll give him that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
The Conservation Commission has to stay. It cannot merge with that big committee.
Yeah.
So then if we now disband the Sustainability Committee, and then afterwards a big committee will be formed. There will not be any sustainability committee that can join
No,
that big.
The Concom has to continue to exist because it's
Yes, exactly.
legislated.
But that's what I mean. So there will be a conservation commission, and then there will be.
Is the timing tough? Yes. I mean, I would have loved to have this idea all baked up
Yeah.
because your timing is actually like you coming and saying we want to kind of think of a better widget. It was Mark and I spoke about this. I'm like, well, I'm working on this idea, but it's not fully baked yet. And quite honestly, I got a million other priorities right now, so I can't shift focus to that.
It's all Matt's fault because he's leaving the Concom.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's all on his schedule. That said, I always have a saying of don't let the good be don't let the great be an enemy of the good. Right. You know, that old mantra. Let's get it consolidated for now. That gets you keeps you going because they're struggling on membership and it sounds like you're in the motion. And I don't stop a train once it's rolling, you know, like you guys are moving in this direction. However, if we create this super group, and I would probably go to the Concom and say, hey, do you want to keep it in with the Concom? Are you finding it? And maybe by that point you're in 6 months and they say, yeah, it's working out all right, but maybe we kind of have different kind of goals here. You could absorb some of those mission and responsibilities sustainably into the supergroup. If not, if it's working fine. It doesn't have to necessarily take it out. So, but I don't want to stop you from that process just because I have this idea that's half-baked right now. Because certainly you lose momentum on these efforts and then all of a sudden we'll end up with no membership. You know,
Yeah.
But the only ones that go ahead. Did you-
So my point on all this is similar to what, Chris was saying, which is, I don't want the sustainability piece. I'm concerned about the optics because of the overall environment that we're operating in, and by that I mean Trump. And the issue for me is, if you look at the town budget, right, and it's a pie, a big chunk of it is going to be in, school committee, school department as well, is going to be personnel costs. And so is there a way to, essentially reaffirm in this transition, and, this is a policy question in your staff, so obviously it's got to go up the chain of command, but to demonstrate that the town is moving in the direction of, producing renewable energy, shrinking its, use of fossil fuels, et cetera. Is there a way to do that that's sort of like a, I had the word in my head, a benchmark. I would imagine probably half the people in town don't know about Rose Hill and URI solar fields. What does that mean in terms of our percentage of how much of our energy do we produce that way? So conservation, to me, that's like Teddy Roosevelt and Gifford Pinchot over there, Sustainability, that's like Bill McKibben. Like we're moving into a different mode here. We're talking about how do we have an economy that's not burning fossil fuels. So you parsed it out as like, well, we have the core functions of the town, which I totally agree with, public safety, roads, sewer, water, but if we're in a predicament where we're going to have to spend a significant budget to heat, cool, light, all the facilities that we run, and we don't intentionally shrink that, then we're working against ourselves to preserve that key function of like issuing birth certificates, as you said, or making sure we have enough police officers and we have responsive fire department. So to me, what I don't want to see happen is I don't want to see the sustainability part of it, just because of what's happening globally, throughout the whole country, where there's this retreat and a resurgence around, essentially fossil fuel writing their ticket. And to me, this is kind of the work, if we were doing it like a year ago or a year from now, it wouldn't feel the same way to me. But it just feels like we're taking the sustainability label down, moving it into the Conservation Commission. I could see that, I don't see that as a sign that people are, backing away from their commitment in any way. I see it as like, okay, some things change and now it sort of makes sense to marry these two committees or commissions. But I don't want the town to either be perceived to be doing that or to be actually doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I mean, listen, you're talking to a guy who who owns an electric truck, right?
Yeah.
I liked it when the Chargers were free.
Yeah.
So, I get it. I get all the environment. Listen, it's a crazy world right now, and things, you couldn't get more pendulum effect from where we were a couple of years ago to where
Yep.
we are now, especially with regards to
12
this
months.
group. That said, what we're talking about is policy, right? Policy is not set by our administration. Policy is set by the council, right?
Right.
So, I would say that is something maybe the group needs to work on moving forward as part of this CONCOM, of trying to reestablish that, what is the town's policy with regards to this? Because I don't think it's been repeated in quite some time about what is the town's policy.
Right.
We've gone through several elections now, and really the top goals don't include sustainability. I have 5 plastered to my walls. Number 1 is building a new high school. And the second one, actually I think the second one's affordable housing, which has taken over sort of the narrative, right?
Yeah.
So that would be something that the group would kind of have to do advisory to council, is saying, we want you to reestablish, this sort of firm notion that we're still in this game. I understand the perception, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about is something that I can control a little bit with the narrative of how
Right.
I write my memo and how we present to council and everything else. In the end of the day, we know the mission doesn't change. Whether the Independent writes an article saying dissolution of the sustainability committee.
Yeah, well, then they didn't follow up with any phone calls to any of us or you, so.
And
My
that's,
picture's not in it, I don't care.
which is a lot of the reason that I'm here tonight, right? I understand the sensitivity of that,
Yeah.
and so if you're all on board with that, knowing full well, yes, our mission continues on. This is a better widget.
Yeah.
We're all in
We're
agreement.
not
I think that
we're not
helps.
dissolving, we're
No,
merging.
you're merging. So I mean, I
But
will describe it as a
technically, I
merger. The
understand.
resolution will say dissolve.
Because it
But
has
I
to.
will, in my communications with the council, explain it more as a merger of mission and goals, and kind of stay away from the dissolution comments. But I hear you, yeah. Certainly don't want that splashed across the front of the newspaper saying.
Yeah.
We've been wanting it, we've been talking for months about merging, so there you go.
So you did say, Luke, that you would talk to the town clerk, so if anyone applies,
Yes,
keep their eye out for it. The town clerk would keep an eye out for the applications.
yeah. And I'll push to get them on like the same night as this whole thing shakes down. So that way it's kind of a whole, it's not we're doing the dissolution of the committee and it's like, yes, we're committed to this new goal, but now we have to get to another meeting to staff it up. I'd rather just get everything done in one night,
Yeah.
if possible.
So you'll keep us aware of the dates and
Yes.
everything.
To make it too fine a point of it, but I thought I recalled in the first discussion when the chair of the Conservation Commission,
Yeah.
there was that's in statute, so there's no messing with that. You can assign it different it has certain delegated tasks from the state, and it can be assigned to other tasks, but it can't be abolished.
Right.
So this is the path of least resistance to have a new and better path.
Are you
going
saying the
forward.
CONCON can't get abolished? Or
Yes,
Right.
yes, that's what I.
That's why it
actually,
technically
that
has
one I
to
would
be-
argue with, but it doesn't matter. It's created, it's enabling legislation, which means
Right.
you can have it. It would have to be dissolved by the council though, but, I mean, we're not dissolving the CONCOM. There's
Right.
no-
So, but, to Christine's point, so the committees that are statutory are Concom.
Actually, well, it's enabled.
Oh,
So
it's
there's a
not-
difference
it's not- it's
between,
not mandated.
you can't
If you
have,
have it, you have to be
planning,
this way.
planning is legislated because it was a planning statute. Zoning Enabling Act covers zoning, so we have to have a zoning board of review and a zoning board of appeals. Historic, because if we want to maintain our historic district, we have to have an HTC, which is important. Assessment, canvassers. Like, those are all the things you have to have to run
Everything you
government.
want
So
to
what
know
are the
about
ones
your
that you
local
can't?
government.
So there's
So we can't-
the ones that you
You could.
don't have to have.
Like
are-
essentially, the
conditional,
council
yeah.
could say tomorrow with a wave of a pen, yes, we don't want any of these anymore. Yes. Sustainability, BPAC, EDC, Affordable Housing Committee,
Wow.
Collaborative Committee, Route One Stewardship Committee. I mean, there is a book in the town clerk's office of all the committees and.
That have ever been?
That have ever been.
Yeah.
That must
It'll
be
boggle your
fun.
mind.
I'd love to go through that.
Feel free, it's public information, it'll bog your mind how many, and a lot of them are specific, like, there's the Route 138 Committee, which.
There was
has-
also the 300th anniversary.
Yeah, and that's,
Just
That is
finished
350?
250, right?
yeah, so now it's a
350.
250, it was a 300.
Wow.
95.
So if you did the super committee, would I mean, I'm going down this road, we should let it go, I'll let it go. But after this quick question, would,
I'm here all night.
no, we're not.
7:01.
Would it be the mandated and the legislated and the sort of, the rest of us all together in the super committee?
No.
It would just be the rest
It
of
would
us?
just be what I call the ad hocs. You're an ad hoc group.
Okay. It's not that super.
No. No, well, yeah.
It would stream-
say
yeah,
it is.
it would streamline a
for
lot.
The power of, listen, my past job before I came here was the city of Warwick. We had 4 boards and commissions. We had cemeteries, which we don't have, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's weird.
Wildlife Commission. And I'm talking about like the elective commissions and whatnot. So anyway, and we actually had a staff member that was part-time. That's all she did was manage those 4. And she helped, go get bags for the cemetery commission because they'd clean up the cemeteries, historic cemeteries and stuff. So every city and town's different. Some have almost none, except for the legislated ones. Some have, like us, have more. I appreciate the engagement in this town. It's great because we have a very smart people trying to work on global problems. And I think it's partly attributable, like we have a university in town, we're an affluent community, and it's great, working on a number of issues, but it also creates complexity from a staffing standpoint. So.
Yeah, for sure.
The next Concom is Tuesday, December 2nd.
Yes,
So Tuesday.
we could.
Is that enough
At least
time
that one
between
I will-
Concom and?
Yeah,
town
I'll make
council?
sure we reach out to them communication-wise through the staff liaison, just kind of where we're at, and that way, we can request them be on the agenda and I can discuss.
Because in the council meetings, what, the 10th? December?
8th.
I think it's 8th, yeah, which means the agenda will be posted on, so their meeting's on what day?
When?
Tuesday, December 2nd.
Okay, so we'll have the agenda posted on Thursday, so if things go haywire and they're like, no, stop, we could always pull it, but
They have,
They-
Matt
they
has
brought it
said
up,
they
yeah.
have brought it
When
up
they want
because
this, I can't see that
they're
gonna
shrinking and they're
I'd
not.
rather strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah,
We get
I think
it
it's great.
done, get the membership in. So does anybody know if they're interested in potentially applying to Concom? Are you all interested? I know you're out.
Can we have a show of hands so that we don't? Or
Who's-
shall we
Yeah,
do
I'm
that
not asking for a
afterwards?
commitment tonight.
No,
Just saying
but it's
generally
helpful
we have a
for me,
sense
for
of-
example. We need 4 people that apply.
I believe as of right now, they'll
Yeah.
need.
Oh.
So
Only 4.
I would apply if we need, if there are not enough people, but I would not apply if others apply, so, but maybe we can do that after the official part of this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
let's have that
let's-
off the record.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because there's
yeah,
also-
that's fine.
As the
there's-
person who's definitely
There's
not.
other follow-up questions actually in my
I was
brain.
really just trying to get a temperature of the water if like we're
Right.
gonna have people like, everyone's like, I wanna be on it, because I wanna be fair.
Right.
And Elizabeth's not here, so I
Right,
wouldn't want us
we
to have that
wouldn't-
conversation
right.
with them.
Fair enough, we can,
But let's still talk about it because it helps us in our personal
Yes.
decisions.
Yeah. As long as it's not 4 of us talking
No,
at the
no,
same
not
time in the
4 of
same
us.
place,
Yeah, yeah.
we're
Yeah.
good.
I would say, just.
Yeah, that's true.
It's fine.
Just
I'm not-
don't forget.
Listen, if you submit an application, we'll know. If there's more people, we can always put out, through Mark, say, hey, we received 5 applications for this. Just letting you know,
Gracefully back out.
and it is what it is. I mean, ideally, we don't want to disenfranchise anybody, but
Yeah.
obviously we have a maximum on the committee, so.
You never know, maybe one of the 3 conservation will be like, I'm good.
All those
I'm out.
sustainability people are infiltrating. I'm out of here.
We'll be outvoted.
Well, I know they'll be looking for a new chair, so.
Yes. Keep that in mind.
Well,
There you go.
I would think that.
Well, I think
Questions?
before we end the meeting, I think we have to do something very important.
What's that?
Thank Mark Russo for all his time
Yes.
that
Because
he
we might not meet again as a
Oh,
committee.
gave this committee.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
I
so
have
glad
not
you
been
did
part
that.
of it for a long time, but
Yeah.
this is quite an effort.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
6 years, I think, I've been
That's
on the show, so.
Longer than
I've
any
seen
of
a
us.
couple of movements of people come in and out.
Yeah.
quite a couple.
Yeah. This has been the most fun.
Nice.
Of course.
Of course. Environmentalists are the best.
You guys did really do a lot.
We got, and with your help, we got like a lot of stuff done. We had some wacky ideas.
It's amazing.
Yeah, hold on to
Yeah,
Charlotte.
she does a great job.
She's the Narragansett one.
She's definitely moved into that role and
Yeah.
really made it her own.
Yeah, she's
Puts stuff
great.
out on Facebook all the time about sustainable
Yeah.
things.
No, she's really not just outreach. She's really an educator, which I appreciate. Given
Well, she did tell me the other day that she went to the Narragansett Conservation Commission and spoke about the recycling and all that. So she does, they don't have a sustainability committee in Narragansett, so.
I didn't know they had a conservation.
She gets paid by both towns, so
Right. So,
she gotta do some
thank you,
stuff
I
over there.
appreciate that,
Yeah.
Christine.
Yeah, thank you.
Mike. Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, go for it.
I made a motion to adjourn right there.
7:06.